Namaste and a very good morning, everyone. As we can all see on the screen, that our chief guest of the day is already here, Dr. Deirdre Lyell, and the students of APJ are giving a guard of honor in her honor. And now, as we can all see, they are proceeding towards the hall. So, namaskar and a very good morning to all. On behalf of APJ Satya and Swaran Group, Indian Obstetrics and Gynecology Journal, and Walter Bushnell Healthcare Foundation, a center of excellence of the APJ Satya University, I extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished guests at the 12th IOG Dr. Stya Paul Awards. We are indeed honored to have amongst us a galaxy of esteemed doctors and other dignitaries from across the country, along with the members of APJ Satya family. I'd like to inform you all that the entire proceedings of today's Oration Lecture and Awards are being broadcast live on IOG Facebook page. In fact, many of our well-wishers, both from India and abroad, have already logged in to watch this program, and a hearty welcome to all of them as well. It's a great privilege to extend a warm welcome to our chief guest, Dr. Deirdre Lyell. She is the Dunlevie Endowed Professor of Maternal-Fetal Medicine at Stanford Medicine, where she serves as chair and principal investigator of the California Maternal Quality Care Collaborative. Dr. Lyell brings more than 25 years of clinical research, leadership, and teaching experience in maternal-fetal medicine. I'd also like to extend a special welcome to Madam Sushma Paul Barlia, Chairman, APJ Satya and Swaran Group, Dr. J.B. Sharma, Editor-in-Chief, IOG Journal, for gracing the occasion. And our heartfelt thanks to Mr. Nishant Barlia, Dr. Neha Barlia, co-owners and directors, Family Business Board, APJ Satya and Swaran Group, who have joined us this morning. And we'd also like to welcome Mr. Aditya Barlia, who will be joining us on Zoom. While Mr. Nishant Barlia and Neha Barlia are here, as I said, Dr. Neha Barlia and Nishant Barlia ji are here. Aditya Barlia ji is going to join us on Zoom. And we warmly welcome all of you and truly appreciate your presence and support. The IOG Dr. Stya Paul Awards and Oration Lecture have been instituted in the fond memory of Dr. Stya Paul, an eminent industrialist, educationist, philanthropist, freedom fighter, and the inspiration behind all our institutions. The awards to be presented today would acknowledge excellence among members of medical fraternity who have contributed papers to the reputed Indian Obstetrics and Gynecology Journal. I once again welcome you all to IOG Dr. Stya Paul Awards 25-26. Let us now light the ceremonial lamp to inaugurate today's special function. And to do the honors, may I request Dr. Deirdre Lyell, Madam Sushma Paul Barlia, Mr. Nishant Barlia, Dr. Neha Barlia, and Dr. J.B. Sharma to do the honors and light the ceremonial lamp. I now request Dr. Deirdre Lyell, Madam Stya Paul Awards, and Dr. J.B. Sharma to kindly grace the dais. May I now request Madam Stya Paul Awards, daughter of late Dr. Stya Paul, to do the Deep Prajwalan. Nature is said to be the mother of all life on earth. Today, we'd like to pay obeisance to her benevolence by presenting green certificates to our esteemed dignitaries present on the dais. These green certificates symbolize the saplings to be planted across the APJ Satya campus in honor of each of our dignitaries. Dr. Deirdre Lyell. Mrs. Stya Paul Awards. And Dr. J.B. Sharma. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Stya Paul, an eminent industrialist, educationist, freedom fighter, and philanthropist, was a leader par excellence and a legend of our times. He was one of the principal architects of our nation's emergence as a self-reliant industrial and educational superpower founded on the strength of Indian capability and enterprise. He is the prime inspiration of the APJ Satya and Swaran Group, the visionary architect of APJ education and the founder chancellor of APJ Satya University. Dr. Stya Paul was a man who overcame all odds to become one of the most respected men of this nation. We shall now showcase a short film on Dr. Stya Paul, in whose fond remembrance these awards have been instituted.
Eminent industrialist, educationist, freedom fighter, and philanthropist, Dr. Stya Paul founded the APJ Satya and Swaran Group that has achieved an iconic status in independent India. The group is known as a trusted symbol of quality and excellence in the country's industrial landscape. A pioneering visionary with a deep commitment to society, Dr. Paul remained the inspiration and the guiding force behind the APJ Education Society, which he established in 1967. Today, the society provides quality education from pre-primary to doctoral levels to over 32,000 students through 29 educational institutions. Dr. Stya Paul was also the founder chancellor of the APJ Satya University, India's first liberal arts university. APJ Satya University aims to produce young Renaissance men and women who would be leaders of today and tomorrow. Born on the 4th of October in the year 1919, he surged ahead and faced all the challenges with firm determination. A brilliant scholar, Dr. Satya Paul was a university gold medalist in mathematics in undivided Punjab. During the course of the independence struggle in India, he became quite involved as a freedom fighter. As a result of his active participation, he was imprisoned by the British during the famous Quit India movement. Dr. Satya Paul lost his parents at a very young age, but he took up the responsibilities of taking care of his entire family and running the family business. Under his inspirational leadership, the APJ Satya and Swaran Group has become one of the most reputed corporate houses of the country. Apart from its large social commitment to education, it is actively participating in other business enterprises as well. Throughout his long and illustrious life, Dr. Satya Paul held responsible positions reflecting his versatility, his leadership, and his eminence. Numerous awards and honors were bestowed upon Dr. Satya Paul, though he never desired any monuments for himself. Dr. Satya Paul's humility, simplicity, and affection impressed one and all. The happiest moments of his life were spent with children. He made us believe that it is not a disgrace if dreams remained unfulfilled, but it is a disgrace if we have no dreams at all. A true Karma Yogi, Dr. Satya Paul retained his zeal for hard work even during his advanced age and remained keenly involved in the management of the APJ institutions. Active till the very end, he departed from the world peacefully on the 7th of June 2010 while preparing to leave for office. His daughter, Sushma Paul Barlia, together with her husband, Vijay Barlia, and their children, Nishant, Aditya, and Neha, carry forward the legacy of excellence, trust, and growth of the group. You are a spiritual being. You are energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes from one form to another. Therefore, the pure essence of you has always been and will always be with us.
That was truly inspiring. As you saw, Dr. Satya Paul's life is a glorious example of a true karma yogi, a source of great inspiration for today's generation. Carrying forward the legacy of Dr. Satya Paul is his daughter and the only child, Madam Sushma Paul Barlia. Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia is a multidimensional entrepreneur, industrialist, and educationist whose work blends nation building with global engagement. She is Chairman APG Satya and Swaran Group, an international diversified conglomerate with interests in pharmaceuticals and chemicals, real estate and development, international trading and distribution, strategic investments, and publishing and media. She is the Chancellor APJ Satya University and Chairman APJ Education, which runs 26 institutions across India. A pioneer in leadership, she was the first woman to head a multi-state Apex Chamber of Commerce in India, serving as president of PhD CCI in 2005-2006, and was among the earliest women in India to lead a pharmaceutical company before the age of 30, and was the first woman entrepreneur of a major educational group in India. Her governance roles include former member, Board of Governors, IIT Roorkee, and former chairperson, Board of Governors, NIT Jalandhar. She currently chairs ASSOCHAM's National Council on Ease of Doing Business and serves on national management committees of ASSOCHAM and FICCI. She represented India at UN World Social Summit in Copenhagen in 1995, delivering a keynote on role of women at workplace and addressed House of Lords UK at London Global Convention on Corporate Governance and Sustainability in 2022 and 23. A humanitarian, she supports inclusion of persons with disabilities, economically weaker sections, and women's empowerment. Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia has won numerous awards, including Mahatma Gandhi Samman at House of Commons, London, Hall of Fame Award by Asian Leadership Awards, Dubai, Udyog Ratan Award, ET Inspiring Entrepreneur of India, and Most Promising Business Leaders of Asia. She received legendary Shiromani Award for Excellence in Education at the NRI World Summit 2022, United Kingdom. She was awarded as Distinguished Fellow of Institute of Directors, IOD, in 2023. She got Lifetime Achievement Award by ASSOCHAM and by Universal Mentors Association, both for promoting education for social cause. Also, Lifetime Achievement Award by SEPC, Ministry of Commerce and Industry in 2024, and by Times Now in 2025. Beyond work, she is an avid reader and traveler with a keen interest in the spiritual. I now request Madam Sushma Paul Barlia to address the gathering.
Guru Gobind Dau Khade, Guru Gobind Dau Khade Kake Lagu Paye, Balihari Guru Aapne Jin Diye Gobind Bataye. I commence, as always, by remembering that if my Guru and God are standing before me together, whom should I first bow my head or touch feet? I commence by touching the feet of my Guru, my late father, Dr. Stya Paul, because it is only through him that I have come to know God. It is only through him that I have learned to live life. And whatever may have been read today, I let it be read not so much as a testimony to what I have achieved, but as a testimony to the man who was the strength and the inspiration which allowed me to have these kind of achievements. But first, let me start by giving a very, very warm welcome to the august gathering gathered here at the IOG Dr. Stya Paul Awards in 2026. I can't even begin to express how wonderful it feels to have what is now definitely our family together at this such a special event for all of us at Walter Bushnell, for my family, but most especially for me. I want to thank you from the bottom of the heart, from all of you who have come not only from different parts of the country, but from international regions to be with us in Delhi today on this occasion. I'm also indeed very thankful to Dr. Deirdre Lyell, and that's how it's pronounced, by the way. I asked her, so I'm not pronouncing it incorrectly. I hope that was right. Yes, to Dr. Deirdre Lyell. She's the Dunlevie Endowed Professor of Maternal-Fetal Medicine at Stanford Medicine and a nationally recognized leader in maternal health in the US, but also internationally. She serves as chair and principal investigator of the California Maternal Quality Care Collaborative and directs multiple programs focused on placental disorders, perinatal epidemiology, and population health. With over 25 years of experience, her research centers on reducing severe maternal morbidity, improving care for placenta, anemia prevention, and advancing quality improvement. An award-winning educator and mentor, she has led practice-changing clinical trials and national initiatives to ensure equitable, high-quality obstetric care. While I'm not going to dwell on her multiple achievements and the longer introduction, which I'm sure before her oration lecture we will hear, but really I think many of us here are more than aware of. But I just wanted to extend a very grateful thanks and recognition of the fact that we have a global expert like Dr. Deirdre Lyell with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Deirdre Lyell. And also a warm welcome to Miriam Lyell, her sister, who has accompanied her all the way here. Today's topic on placental dysfunction from pathophysiology to clinical practice, which is the Oration Lecture, is a need of today. And as I was discussing with many of you and also hearing some of the erudite speakers at the panel yesterday, that despite all the advancement in maternal and fetal health globally and in India, there are still places, gaps, and areas where much more needs to be done, both in terms of research, formulation of newer protocols perhaps, and most importantly, being able to create widespread awareness and practice in some of the best practices that we may have found in our clinical practice. So without trying to at all get into your field, if I may say. I'm not a medical doctor, but I would like to say that I was fascinated to hear from Dr. Deirdre about the placental dysfunction, because I always thought it was more related to implantation, positioning, and other issues. I did not realize that vascularity remodeling issues led to so many of the problems that we face, apart, of course, from all the other associated risks that come as an outcome. And each one of them probably deserve a lecture on its own, really, if we think about it. Certainly, advances in imaging, biochemical research, clinical protocols now allow for earlier detection and more precise management. But we hope that today's discussion will help us to think a little more deeply and think beyond in terms of this such an important topic. Some of you may have noticed that I was limping. I wish I could say that I had been on another pilgrimage which led to this. I have been to some far off, inaccessible areas in the mountains and so on. But this only happened because I was feeling in great health, and at total ignorance of wise precautions, I walked in my slippers on uneven surface, and maybe it has to do with some of those things we were discussing yesterday, but it led to the obvious. So it should get well soon. But the reason I'm mentioning is for a very different reason. I was kind of immobile for a while. I had to be on the wheelchair even when traveling down to India. Much better now, as you see. But it led me to think about my father, Dr. Stya Paul, in whose memory this lecture has been established and whom we are talking about today. As many of you here who have been hearing me in the last few years would know, he had polio when he was 3-4 years old. And by the way, so he knew what it was to be able to run and walk normally as a child. And then to be struck with polio with your left leg almost bent, very weak, the entire left side, and be walking on crutches practically the whole of the time till he could afford later on in life to go to US, to Boston, and have the corrective polio surgery. In those days, we didn't have that in India, which enabled him to at least walk with a walking stick and calipers. You know, it's easy to talk about people's difficulties, but when you experience just a little bit of it, one really realizes what it means. I mean, I'm looking forward to quickly walking and running shortly, but day after day, week after week, month after month, it's just not easy. And yesterday, when many of you were talking, so I was very emotionally touched when many of our doctors were touching upon the importance of TLC, tender loving care. And that reminds me, by the way, of a story. When my father was in the hospital getting this corrective surgery done in Boston, he was in deep pain for weeks and months. And, there's a limit to how much painkillers doctor wanted to give him, because he would tell my father, I would rather see you with a bent leg than with a bent mind. But even then, when he would be really begging for some kind of pain relief, he would tell the nurse, please give him a tablet of TLC, the doctor. So for few weeks, he was getting tablets of TLC. And then, when he was being released from the hospital, he asked the doctor, can I be prescribed tablets of TLC just in case I have pain? And then, of course, he realized that they were just placebos and tender loving care, really. But I wanted to just share that it is not just in areas of repeat pregnancy loss, but in so many areas involved in patient recovery. Maybe we don't sufficiently recognize the importance of TLC. And more in today's world, when, families are not really available to give you that support, people really don't have time for each other. Most of us connect us through social media. This is a wonderful, the most important gift I think we are giving our patients beyond whatever other treatment that we give to them. So I just wanted to say thank you for mentioning the importance of that yesterday, and it did trigger this memory. So, as I said, this year I did not go on a pilgrimage. I was on a different pilgrimage, and there is a twist to this quote also of Guru Gobind Khade. My God and my Guru are standing before me, and I'll talk about it. But little bit to come back to Dr. Stya Paul. So just imagine, day after day, he was overcoming physical issues. He was in a family of 7 brothers and sisters, humble beginning, little business of making buckets, couldn't afford electricity, all education by lantern, lost his parents. His mother was passed away when the last child was born at childbirth, and his father passed away when he was very young. Despite all that, he did not lose hope. He did not lose his dreams. He continued with grit, with determination, and an inner strength that must have been remarkable. And it is not something which is only given to him. As he would always share, it is really within each one of us. We just sometimes forget that it's there. It only needs a reminder. And when we look inside, it's not that, oh, this was this special man. Not at all. But he was a man who recognized what was within him and tried to reach the highest purpose and his deepest potential. And if we can try to do that in our lives, we would be so much more than we could have ever imagined ourselves to be. This is why every year we may repeat the same things about him, but we like to keep that memory alive, not just because he was a remarkable human being, not just because he was my father, not just because he had multifarious achievements, not because we should try to emulate him. He didn't want people to emulate him. He always believed that copies are always copies, and every person is an original who needs to be the grandest version of themselves, who they are. And in that context, at the end of the day, it is that he emulated the traits, the values. If each one of us were to remember and carry forward in our lives, there is no doubt about it that we would have become not only very successful human beings, but also happy human beings. So, one of the beautiful things I have always remembered about him is his smile. Now, imagine somebody who's gone through all that. He was in the freedom movement, as we heard, he went to jail because of his participation. He was actually distributing illicit, what the British felt was illicit literature, inciting them to rebel against the British government at that time. And when he was imprisoned, he was put through a whole lot of things which was gathered to make him give the names of all those who had participated with him, which he refused to do so. So he was about to be sent off to Andaman, where they sent off prisoners who normally never got back, except that time there was a general amnesty for all people who had been involved in the freedom struggle and Quit India movement, and he was released along with everybody else. In fact, he used to often say that after having gone to jail, he lost even that fear. So he said, what can be worse than that? I would have died. In which case, what are we fearing? We are only fearing fear itself. He was fearless. Many a times, if people were appreciative of what he was doing, I don't think anybody can be alive in this world and not have some people criticizing them. It's impossible. I think the only people who only hear praise are those who are no more. So, but at least in our country. But at the end of the day, it didn't bother him the least bit. And once I sat with him and asked him, doesn't it bother you? And he said, no, it doesn't, because when people say I'm doing wonderfully, I'm happy to accept it. If people are saying I'm doing terribly, I'm also happy to accept it for a very important reason. Because I'm doing what I'm doing, not for just anybody. I'm doing it because I feel this is something that I must do, which is important to me in the very core of my being. So, with all of that, and then, of course, that was another journey when he wanted to get into a college for teaching. He was very passionate about education, and he was refused because he had been walking at that time with crutches, and nobody wanted him in the classroom. Can't get away with it today, but it did happen at that time. By the way, he was a brilliant scholar, gold medalist in combined Punjab in mathematics, everything, but they wouldn't let him be teaching. So he went back to this little budget making business, and somehow, and it's a long story, so I won't get into it. And it wasn't just a journey of success like a straight slope. It was valleys, hills, higher hills, some more valleys. There were a lot of challenges along the way. But eventually it became a business empire of repute. But he did not forget the importance of giving back to society. It wasn't so much for him in those days, by the way, there was no corporate social responsibility. People weren't awarding you for doing good, so to speak, and neither did he want to be recognized. He was doing it very quietly. Number of people who have benefited from scholarships from him, we don't know who they are. When he passed away, they came back to tell us about that. Number of people who gave seed capital to for starting their businesses, who he felt that, really needed that. And some of them has flourished greatly over time. Number of people in whose life he made a difference, he touched their lives. And all unsung, unknown until and unless those people came and told us about it and we knew about it. So that is probably why we remember him every year. And essentially, we are not talking about anything new, by the way. I truly believe that we have all of this within us. It is just that sometimes in life we forget. And I think we need a reminder at times of what truly matters, what is truly important. And the fact that one of these days, none of us are going to be around. So, talking about this pilgrimage, so this year I had another pilgrimage, but this time not to the mountains, not to faraway places, not to any religious pilgrimage center. This time it was a pilgrimage to the center of my being. And I thought I must share this experience with you. Because, when I went to Kailash Mansarovar on once, I went to Amarnath. Last year I was at the Mahakumbh. And it was something so different. I have described that before, that moment both of silence despite any buzzing that there was around you, and at the same time, that feeling of connectivity. Connectivity to the point, and that brings me to where I said that there is a twist to this Guru Gobind quote, and which is actually there is no Guru and there is no Gobind, or there is Guru and there is Gobind and they are all of us. There is really no differentiation at all. And this isn't just about not theorizing, but feeling that. I think this is also about quantum physics. If you look at quanta, even if you read a bit of it, in today's times, quantum physics has gone to places which, if said a few decades ago, people would wonder if they were on some substance. Because they are saying matter is energy, energy is matter. Okay, up to that point we heard about it. We said particles can become waves or waves can become particles, and they could be both at the same time. They're also saying they can live in multiple places simultaneously. The same particle can be in multiple places at the same time. This is science. This is not some voodoo we are talking about, right? And that it's impossible to know the position and momentum of that particle at the same time. We are also saying that two particles can become correlated to such an extent that even if they're distances away, one particle can influence the behavior of the other particle. And I leave you to reflect upon that. But one thing further. So I was asking myself that if this is how I felt, then it should be felt wherever I am. Why do I need to go to A, B, C place? So is it that if I were to sit down or just be somewhere and be aware Can I experience it again, or do I have to go somewhere to do it? And that was a very tough journey, starting with my family, who thought that my need for having this special time to myself was crazy. It was also a tough journey because of the demands of the business. It's quite okay to run away for 1 week, but to put it in your everyday time, day after day after day, believe me, was a greater challenge. That's all I can say. And then I realized somewhere, I'm realizing, I'm probably not fully there yet, that I didn't need to take special time out. I didn't need to sit by myself. If I'm here, all of us are here, I can still feel it. I can still sense it. I can still be aware of it. In which case, we don't need to go anywhere. We just continue to do the work we are doing, but keep ourselves aware. Just be aware. I'm sure each one of you in your practice have had moments when you're conducting a surgery or some very complex specialized procedure or something which is so passionate about that it engages your attention 100%. You have forgotten who you are. You are fully with it. And when you are fully with it and you are not there, I know it sounds like a contradiction, but I'm sure our medical fraternity at least will understand what I'm saying. At that particular point in time, you are aware. And you are probably conducting miracles in the OT or with your patients. That is when it happens. But can we replicate that outside of those moments? Is what I have been asking myself. I'm just sharing with you the journey so far. If I read somewhere interesting, I'll let you know next year. So, with that, it's a pleasure to share my inner feelings. I don't know why I have been doing this year after year now. Maybe because you have been listening to me, of course, not that you have a choice, but somewhere I feel and I think that if people who are involved in medicine and in making a difference in the lives of others, intrinsically, somewhere, carry this element far more than those who are not involved with these kind of frontiers. Because day after day, you are leaving the world a little better place, not only by the work that you do, but also by even one healthy child who was born and is making their way in life. To know that even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. And this, I think, is the greatest success more than any other awards that you may have got. And I really salute all of you. So the Walter Bushnell Healthcare Foundation, which is an interdisciplinary center of excellence at APJ Satya University, engaged in promoting awareness of healthcare issues amongst the community and furthering the frontiers of medical research. As one of the major interdisciplinary centers, is working very closely with Science Media Center for Information and Dialogue, apart from organizing conferences, symposia, and lectures. But we hope now we may be taking the next leap forward because, as Nishant was sharing with you earlier, our R&D centers are now expanding in different areas, and we are building the kind of capabilities that might help us to find solutions to today's problems, if not tomorrow's problems. And we hope to engage much more deeply with each one of you to find out that are there any areas which are really important in your practice, which one could support by way of research and further insight into a field. Ultimately, I can only say success is not just about success and failure, victory and defeat, joy and sorrow over what has happened or not happened. A successful person is somebody who can rise above all of this, disregard the outcomes, and continue on their vision and mission. And I think the most important, highest purpose we have in our lives is to be happy. And I think human beings are constructed in a way that our happiness comes about not only when we achieve things, it is added to when we are able to make a difference in others' lives as well. So, thank you very much. I will like to end with an Urdu couplet. राहे तलब में जज्बाए कामिल हो जिसके साथ. If your intensity of desire is matched with your intensity of dedication, राहे तलब में जज्बाए कामिल हो जिसके साथ, खुद उसे ढूंढ लेती है मंजिल कभी कभी. If your intensity of desire is matched with your intensity of dedication, your desired goal itself will seek you out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your profound and inspiring thoughts. We are delighted to have amongst us Mr. Nishant Barlia also this morning. He is a visionary industrialist and co-owner and director, Family Business Board of the APJ Satya and Swaran Group, a global conglomerate with key interests in education, pharmaceuticals, and real estate. Carrying forward the prestigious legacy of his grandfather, Dr. Stya Paul, and his parents, Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia and Mr. Vijay Barlia, he serves as an office bearer of APJ Education and pro-chancellor of APJ Satya University. A dual alumnus of Stanford University and Harvard Business School, Mr. Barlia spearheads the group's pharmaceutical vertical. Under his leadership, flagship companies like Walter Bushnell, Martin and Harris, and ASG Biochem have expanded their footprint across the USA, Europe, and Middle East and emerging African markets. Recently, in January 2026, he was awarded with the Visionary Leadership Award in Pharma at the Business World Pharma Excellence Awards in New Delhi, reflecting his strategic vision, leadership excellence, and continued contribution to advancing the pharmaceutical industry. He currently serves as the inaugural chair of the International Chamber of Commerce, India Working Group on Trade and Investment, and chair International Committee for the Americas, PhD-CCI, where he continues to bridge global economic partnerships. May I now request Mr. Nishant Barlia to welcome the august gathering.
Thank you, Ji, and it's a real pleasure. A very good morning to everyone. It is, first of all, with a very immense pleasure that I extend a very hearty welcome to all of you gathered here today, and especially a very hearty welcome to our distinguished guest, Dr. Deirdre J. We share the same alma mater. I'll be kind and not, I'll be polite and not share the year of graduation. I graduated a year of 2005, so it's always a pleasure to have somebody coming from the farm here, ma'am, which is there. Dr. Deirdre Lyell is the Dunlevie Endowed Professor of Maternal-Fetal Medicine at Stanford Medicine, and she also serves as a chair and principal investigator of the California Maternal Quality Cooperative. And I know my sister will be talking more about her formal introduction, but I couldn't hesitate to share what Dr. Deirdre was sharing with us is that California and the program that she's leadership has now achieved the lowest the best maternal outcomes, frankly, lowest maternal morbidity for any state in the United States. and it is actually half that of any other state in the United States. So that's a commendable achievement, and really, I must say, I'm looking very much forward to your talk, ma'am, today. Um, Medicine has always had a very deep and personal significance to our family. I think our chairman, Mrs. Lyell, shared my late grandfather's journey with polio. In fact, that time, what became a very common procedure in India, polio corrective surgery, was not available in the country, and he had to travel to Mass General Hospital, Boston, that time, and had that surgery. And in fact, many years later, in a very quiet way, which was his nature, he was supporting many people through it. I remember when I came back from university, we used to work with a number of NGOs at that time. In my eyes alone, we must have, under his guidance, conducted quietly hundreds of surgeries around that time. And and you can tell how much of an immense thing it has, and it's such a wonderful thing also to make a difference. And something why I feel so grateful today to have so many distinguished faculty here today, because as Madam was sharing, that every one life means so much to one individual and one family. That's something which is very special, per se. In 2022, we celebrated 50 years of AP education. It's a milestone, really, for us. I think, and really, we have many of us senior faculty here as well. And in fact, I must say, when I was seeing my grandfather's late video, I saw so many faces, some of them who are with us, who are not with us, who've been part of that journey. And it's really something that we feel very happy about. I know Dr. J.B. Sharma will be sharing about the journal, but I must say, I was just reminiscing with him this morning. When we started this journal at that time, when Dr. Sharma and the other editorial board members had come to us, the challenge had been that there were very few avenues for publication, especially for our young upcoming doctors at that time, what you call in the field. And the idea was to start this journal to give them a view to start publishing and growing in that sense. And today, of course, I mean, I'm fortunately very far from the editorial board, but they are chased after for publication articles, and that's a great thing to see. But I also want to share with you a few pivotal moments which we thought, and just to give a sense of what we are doing also as a group and also perhaps as a country. As to give you an example, because now I have taken some of these positions with the International Chamber of Commerce and with some other chambers as well. So to give you an example, in 2022, India actually became the third largest outcome of publications. The third largest number of publications in the world started coming from India. But interestingly enough, this year, Nature had actually published a review of the quality of articles. And now in the top 10 also, top 10% of publications, India is also ranked third. And what's also remarkable that the percentage of publications which are top 10% in India now are approximately 15%, which is very similar to the same ratios as the US. We still have a role to go. Thank you. It's a matter of great pride, and I think it's happening at such a pace. We still have a way to go in the top 1% publications, but things will go through. But also, I must say, it's not a question of competition, it's a question of collaboration. In fact, now 36% of these publications, top 10%, were also where Indian co-authors had international co-authors. I think it's wonderful to see, especially in our country and with our faculty here, the amount of cross-border research which is going on. And by the way, we see it today very often in the pharmaceutical industry. I must share with you, I think we have, in fact, been parts of certain syndicates, which is a very unique experience for us, because 10 years ago, we thought it's not be possible, where we are co-investing with VCs and other biotech and other pharma companies to get products to the US. One syndicate we participated in just got FDA approval last year for a new diagnostic tool. It's not right for me to talk about it, but that's a very interesting part. But it's interesting they want to collaborate with us, not only because of capital, because they see India as a place where research can be fast-tracked. And I think that's one wonderful area which has really as such emerging. I would be remiss not to talk a little bit about my field, and I was sharing with Dr. Deirdre. So originally I had gone to study biomedical computation. And in 2001, this was so advanced that in the Stanford course book, it used to be written, design your own major, biomedical computation. They didn't even want to share it as a formal degree because it was so innovative. And that's another experience of what happened with that program, which is there. But at that time, there were two challenges we faced. The algorithms have not changed, actually speaking. One challenge was compute. In fact, the maximum amount of compute on the campus used to go towards protein folding. And today you can go to AlphaFold 3 on your desktop and you can play with proteins. I saw my son playing just clicking around a few days ago. The fact is you can do that. It's been a revolution. But the second part has been also on the way that we can sequence. I remember 25 years ago, sequencers were these multi-million-dollar machines you used to pray that you would have access to. Today, you can get a sequencer in like a desktop printer almost, And you can run data as many of you see. But even in our R&D, the way we are seeing this high velocity R&D, which has been driven, where this use of AI, robotic tools, like we have some very interesting tools. As we have one thing called a parallel synthesizer. It runs massive number of chemical experiments at the same time, which at least for me, I remember working with Beakers is a very revolutionary thing. But that world is changing dramatically, and I think we're going to see, especially our country, with its focus on computation engineering, what we call really driving that high velocity R&D going forward quite a bit. One thing I must say, which I learned from my grandfather, was that institutions are not built in a day. They're built, as many of you are here, as you know, it's built brick by brick through relentless dedication and dedication of countless of individuals. There are thousands of bricks, if not hundreds of thousands of bricks, which goes to build an institution. And that's one of the reasons I feel very privileged to have all of you here. I think over the years, as IOG is in itself becoming its own institution, many of you very kindly remarked that you look forward to this year for the scientific dialogue, the interaction with faculty across the world. And I think it's really there. And today we have senior faculty here from all corners of the country. We have international faculty also here. So it's really, we feel very grateful and privileged, if I may say. So thank you for your time, your insights, and your invaluable conversations. And a very hearty welcome once again to today's proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, the IOG Journal has emerged as one of the most sought-after publications among the medical fraternity, and we are pleased to have Dr. J.B. Sharma, Editor-in-Chief of the journal, amongst us today. Dr. J.B. Sharma is Head of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Yashoda Medicity in Indirapuram. He previously served as a professor and unit head at AIIMS, New Delhi. He specializes in key gynecological areas, including urogynecology, genital tuberculosis, and medical disorders in pregnancy. Dr. J.B. Sharma has over 425 publications in indexed and non-indexed national and international journals. He has presented over 220 papers in various conferences and has also chaired many sessions. He's been awarded the Honorable Dr. B.C. Roy Award for his research in 2015 by the President of India. He also received the Fogsy Late Professor Kutty Lifetime Achievement Award in the 64th AICOG. He was also awarded with the Dr. T.C. Anand Kumar Memorial Oration Gold Medal Award at ISSRF 2022 and Dr. Prabha Mehra Oration in King George Medical University, Lucknow in 2023. So recently, he was honored with the Fellowship of National Academy of Sciences in 2025. I now request Dr. Sharma to share his editorial insights on the IOG Journal. Dr. Sharma.
So thank you very much. It's my proud privilege to come here. So respected Sushma Pal Barlia Madam, Chairman APJ School, Satya and Swaran Group, and Chancellor of APJ Satya University and Chairman of APJ Education. Dr. Deirdre J. Lyell, Dunlevie, Endowed Professor of Maternal-Fetal Medicine, Stanford University, School of Medicine. Thank you. So I'm really delighted to share details about the Indian Obstetrics and Gynecology Journal, which was first launched in January 2011. So almost, nearly for 15 years we have got as a specialty journal in Obs and Gynae. The journal was established to provide a platform for both budding and established authors and researchers to publish their scientific work in the field, as Dr. Nishant just mentioned. So it is published quarterly, and the journal features original research articles, review articles, case reports, book reviews, letter to editor, and other scientific communications in the areas of obstetrics, gynecology, infertility, and related subspecialties. All submitted manuscripts undergo rigorous peer review by subject experts and members of the honorary editorial board, who are distinct experts from across the globe. The board represents various subspecialties, including maternal-fetal medicine, assisted reproduction, reproductive endocrinology, gynae oncology, urogynae, and minimal invasive gynae, and others. The journal welcomes submission across the broad spectrum of obs and gynae. Manuscripts from other branches of medicine relevant to these specialties are also considered, like dental problems in pregnancy, medical disorders in pregnancy, cardiac disorders. So they can also refer their studies to us. They are considered and published provided they meet the required standards of scientific merit and quality. All manuscripts are expected to adhere to the uniform requirement for manuscripts submitted to biomedical journals, with references formatted according to Vancouver style, and we strive to minimize the time between submission, review, and acceptance and publication through prompt peer review and timely communication with authors for necessary revisions. So it is in your interest to send the papers in full format so that they can be published fast. The journal is published by APJ Satya Publishing Private Limited, Delhi. However, it remains editorially independent with respect to scientific content, and I am pleased to note that the journal has been well received by the medical fraternity, who eagerly await for the next issue. We are witnessing a record number of high quality submissions, not only from specialties in obs and gynae, but from basic scientists, physicians, surgeons, dental surgeons, particularly regarding conditions affecting pregnancy. And in response to increasing submissions and expanding content, we may consider increasing the publication to bi-monthly schedule in near future. It is quarterly at the moment. I sincerely thank all the international and national editorial board members and reviewers who contribute their time and expertise selflessly to uphold the journal standards. And most importantly, I express my gratitude to our esteemed readers, without whose support the journal cannot be successful. And the journal is currently indexed with Abesco from USA and Google Scholar, and all previous issues from the inaugural volume onward are accessible through these databases. You can easily download it all over the world, anywhere in the world. Free downloading is there. Indexation is widely regarded as a marker of quality, and index journals are generally considered to maintain higher scientific standard than non-index journals. So Abesco provides a comprehensive and optimized research platform that include e-journals, e-books, and research databases, and the journal can be easily accessed free of cost all over the globe. Google Scholar offers a simple and broad search interface for scholarly literature. We are in the process of applying for indexing with additional agency. Like, I was talking to Manju Purohit and Vishal Vanes. We are producing to DOAG in near future, because that is accepted by the National Medical Council. So I need help from all our esteemed editors and all. Dr. Pratap Kumar is there, so for guiding us for that, sir. Ultimate aim will be to get it publication with PubMed, but that will take few more years. And so we seek your support in this endeavor. The journal progress is a result of valuable contribution of our authors and untiring efforts of our editorial board members. We request our authors and readers to continue submitting high quality original research articles, review articles, case reports, and letter to editor to further enhance the journal's scientific standing. So I'm particularly grateful to APJ Satya Publishing Society Limited, especially Madam Susma Pal Barlia, Nishant Barlia, Neha Barlia, Aditya, and all, and they, for publishing the journal selflessly as a service to the medical fraternity. And I also extend my appreciation to Dr. Manju Purohit, Dr. Vishal Vane, and the entire editorial board team members, including the desk editors, for their dedicated work. And we encourage researchers to submit high quality articles to us so that we can publish them, and the journal can be indexed better. So I just want to thank Dr. Nishant, Neha, Dr. Pandey couples are there, sir. Thank you very much for coming. Rishma, Dr. Pai, Dr. Rishma Pai, ma'am, Narendra Malhotra, Jaideep Malhotra, Dr. Ashok Kumar. I congratulate him to organize the AICOG recently concluded. It was one of the most successful. Thank you, Dr. Ashok. And he's our esteemed editorial board member also. And Dr. Pratap Kumar always helps us in the journal. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Anju Soni is there. Dr. Amit Patki, thank you for your support. Dr. Mahesh Gupta, Dr. Sunita Malik always helps in the journal. Upma Saxena, madam, thank you for coming. Dr. Naina Patel for excellent talk yesterday. Dr. Mridu Bhasani madam, Dr. Ratna Bali for their excellent talks yesterday. Bhagya Lakshmi madam for getting the award. Aparna Hegde for getting the award. And Dr. Nagar Katti, Dr. and Dr. Kabiri Banerjee, Dr. Saila Jamal, and lot of others. I may not be able to name all. So I thank you very much for coming here and sharing our this thing. So I encourage all the researchers to submit their high quality article to our journal, and request you to ask your students, PG students, to send quality articles so that we can get ultimately published, indexed with the PubMed index. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma, for enlightening us on the path-breaking journal. I now request Dr. Deirdre Lyell to present green certificates to the editorial board members of the IOG Journal and the eminent personalities of Obs and Gynae fraternity. I request Mrs. Burlia to present the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, an easy and proven way to build excellent habits and eliminate negative ones. I also request Mr. Nishant Burlia, Mr. Aditya Burlia, who is not here, Dr. Neha Burlia to join us on stage, please. So let's begin with Dr. Ashok Kumar. Can we have Dr. Pratap Kumar on stage, please? So after receiving the green certificates, may I request all of you to kindly stay back with us for a group photograph. That's Dr. Pratap Kumar. Dr. Kaveri Banerjee. Dr. Amit Patki. Dr. Ratnabali Chakrabarti. Dr. Nayana Patel. Dr. Jaideep Malhotra. I think she's left the hall for the time being. Dr. Rishma Dhillonpai. And then Dr. Rishikesh Pai. Dr. Cynthia Alexander. Dr. Cynthia Alexander coming on stage. And then after that, Dr. Neerja Goyal. That's Dr. Neerja Goyal. Let's hear it for everyone. Dr. Mridubhashini Govindarajan. Can we have Dr. Narendra Malhotra, please? Dr. Sunita Malik. After that, Dr. Rajendra Nagarkatti. Dr. Anju Soni. Dr. Anju Soni. Dr. Shailesh. That's Dr. Shailesh Pantambekar coming up on stage. Dr. Mahesh Gupta. Dr. Mahesh Gupta. Dr. Aparna Hegde. Can we have Dr. L.K. Pandey on stage, please? Dr. L.K. Pandey and Dr. Sulekha Pandey. Let's welcome on stage Dr. L.K. Pandey and Dr. Sulekha Pandey. Dr. L.K. Pandey and Dr. Sulekha Pandey, and we'll be having a group photograph. So let's hear a big round of applause for all of them. Thank you so much. I request you all to kindly be seated now. Ladies and gentlemen, the IOG Journal has emerged as a trusted and well-researched referral publication for the medical fraternity in indexed form in Abesco and Google Scholar. In order to maximize its reach across the globe, we are delighted to announce the IOG Journal. It's now available online with all its issues just a click away in a structured and reader-friendly format. And as we wait for all of you to settle down, I will be requesting Dr. Deirdre Lyell to release the latest issue of IOG Journal. This is the latest issue of IOG Journal being released by Dr. Deirdre Lyell. The latest edition of the Path-Breaking Journal. I now request Dr. Deirdre Lyell to release the IOG Journal online. So as we mentioned, we have the journal online as well. She'll be releasing it online. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. We hope that you all will log into the website and become a part of the IOG family. While the display screens give you a digitalized view of the journal, the same has been included in your respective kits. Thank you, Dr. Deirdre Lyell, once again. We shall now proceed to the much-awaited presentation of the IOG Dr. Stya Paul Awards 25-26. The awards are being given to the authors of the best papers published in the IOG Journal under 3 categories: Best Case Report, Best Review Article, and Best Original Study. The jury, comprising national and international experts, reviewed all the submissions to IOG for the year 2024. The names of the eminent authors were kept confidential to maintain complete authenticity. A lot of effort went into the reviewing of these submissions, and we would like to thank each of our jury members for that. So now, the award for the Best Case Report. And this goes to Dr. Shehla Jamal. She is the unit head, Sarvodaya Hospital, Greater Noida, and is ex-professor Rajeshri Medical Research Institute, Bareilly. I now request her to come on stage and make a brief presentation of her case report, Recurrent Mesomelia Syndrome. Dr. Shehla Jamal.
So all other esteemed readers or the people who are sending their paper, they can learn from them that which papers, which case report, which review articles get award. So that will give you an idea about that. And that, something very interesting plus something which contributes to the knowledge and gives some new insight into the, either etiopathogenesis or new management plan. So Dr. Shaila, please. Thank you.
Good morning with good afternoon to all of you. Thank you, respected Ma'am Sushma. Thank you, Dr. Lyell, and thank you, our teacher, Dr. J.B. Sharma, sir. And I can see Nirja Ma'am, Ashok, sir, amongst all, and thank you. I would like to start my presentation as I stand here as Senior Consultant and Unit Head, Obs and Gynae, Sarvodaya Hospital, Greater Noida. The case reported was that of 27 years old, third gravida para 1, with previous stillbirth and 1 abortion. She presented to me at 11 weeks and 2 days. She conceived through IUI, and her routine investigations were done. NT scan and other tests were also advised. She was taking folic acid off and on and was a known case of hypertension. That too, she was taking amlodipine 10 milligram and she was non-compliant with majority of the treatments and follow-up advices. Her NT scan showed thickness to be around 3.3 millimeter. However, the combined risk was low for trisomy 21, 13, as well as 18. She was advised Ecosprin 100 milligram, 150 milligram labetalol, 100 milligram BD, which controlled her blood pressure well. Her second visit was directly at 21 weeks, 5 days, as against the advice. Her anomaly scan relieved severe growth restriction and query mesomelia syndrome. She had absent humerus and short 4 upper arm limb bones. Her interesting obstetric history revealed that she had an abortion at 9 weeks around, which was spontaneous and was medically managed. Second was a preterm vaginal delivery, had severe growth restriction at that time too. She had severe preeclampsia, delivered a stillbirth, and on much insistence revealed that baby was born with short limbs. And this was the photograph which I could retrieve after much of pursuance. There was history of antihypertensive intake for the last 5 years, and her father was also hypertensive. Her examination revealed blood pressure to be of 160 by 100, and fundal height was not corresponding to period of gestation. Apart from that, she had grade 1 retinopathy. Counseling was done. She took second opinion also and got a repeat scan done outside. Their MTP was advised, and she came to us with labor pain, and she aborted after 6 hours of her admission. So this was the photograph of abortus that was born on second time. So just to have a comparison with the previous stillborn baby, both had male sex, both had shorter upper limbs and absent humerus, and that was a much repeated pattern. She had no spinal bifurcation, the baby had no spinal bifurcation or other orofacial or limb defects. Her CGH microarray was advised, and it was thankfully accepted by her, and she got it done. Fetal autopsy and X-ray, however, were refused by the family. Her microarray revealed no known abnormality or genetic mutation, which we were trying to find out. And while I was submitting this report, she was 6 weeks pregnant again. Her BP was 130 by 80, and she still was not taking antihypertensive. And while I came here, I took a follow-up. She has delivered her third mesomelic abortus at 28 weeks in November 2025. So importantly to discuss here is what is mesomelia. Basically, it is short limb defect where the long bone like humerus or femur is normal, but radius ulna or tibia fibula are shorter. While rhizomelia is just the opposite, and micromelia is having both the patterns in a shorter variety. My case fitted into none. Langer's mesomelic dysplasia got a bit of hint to my case. That was a mesomelia and rhizomelia shortening of upper and lower limb, but lower limbs were not involved in this case. Then Werner type of dysplasia might had some insights or hints into the case, which has an association with polysyndactyly, which my case also had, and triphalangism, which my case also had. But none of the pattern was established in the present case. To discuss skeletal dysplasias, they may be autosomal dominant, recessive, and X-linked. And gene disorders which are known to cause are SOX9, FGF3, PTHR1, or RUNNX2 gene. This we tried to find out, but we were unable to do so. 5% of all congenital anomalies are contributed by skeletal dysplasias, lethal accounting for around 1 per 10,000 deliveries. Achondroplasia is most common non-lethal varieties which many of the obstetricians might see at least once in their lifetime. Infants are almost 13% stillborn, and 44% cases can be diagnosed antenatally. So typical diagnostic features which we see in antenatal period are polyhydramnios, thickened soft tissues, micromelia, extremities at 90 degree to trunk, bowed femur, polyspondyly, frontal bossing, and clover leaf skull type 2 variety. Radiology, if can be done antenatally, is the most useful investigations, but postnatally, babygram can be ordered, showing a short 4 limbs. Other tests which can help are amniography, fetoscopy, 3D USG, and CT, depending on the circumstances we are dealing with. Genetic diagnostic techniques are the most conclusive and helpful ones, like finding for FGF3 mutations and analysis of SOX9. And based on clinical suspicion in collaboration with pediatric geneticists, we can order whole gene sequencing or microarray. So basic difference between whole genome sequencing and microarray, we know what we are trying to find out, and whole genome sequencing, it scans basically 100% of the human genome and tells us the unknown varieties also. So when we do fetal autopsy, which is almost mandatory in such cases, we might found growth plate disorders, large balloon chondrocytes, and resting cartilage with myxoid type of degeneration. So to conclude, why I presented this case was there is recurrence and no apparent genetic test was positive. Similar deformity pattern was seen in 3 of the patterns. So chance congenital anomaly in this case was really a low probability. Parents had no genetic history, neither was it a consanguineous marriage. Ultrasound features showed patterns of mesomelia, but no pattern was identified on at least CMA. So the whole genome sequencing should have been offered. We offered it also, but it was refused. And more importantly, early onset hypertension and fetal growth restriction calls for vigilance for anomalies in babies. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So that is was excellent case report, recurrent mesomelia, unusual case, and management done well. Then unfortunately, patient did not have live issue now, so she need a genetic opinion. So that's why I think the jury got it awarded. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jamal, and many congratulations. I now request Dr. Deirdre Lyell and Madam Burlia to present the award to her. So this, as I mentioned earlier, is the Best Case Report Award. Thank you. Thank you and congratulations. Next is the Best Review Article, and this goes to Dr. Swati Tomar, Assistant Professor, Department of Obs and Gynae, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. I now invite Dr. Swati to come on stage and make a brief presentation. She has reviewed primary vaginal carcinoma in an excellent manner. Dr. Swati Tomar.
Good afternoon, respected seniors, organizers, and my dear colleagues. So it gives me an immense pleasure to be here for the second time. I was previously, I came for this award ceremony 2 years back, and reminds me of the lovely memories. So just to summarize what we had submitted to the journal, that the primary vaginal cancers, they are rare tumors which account for less than 0.1% of all cancers, and these are specifically defined as the cancers which are found in the vagina and without any clinical or histopathological presence of cancer in the cervix or the vulva. And the patient should also not have any history of these 2 cancers in the last 5 years. These are mostly linked to the HPV and its neoplastic consequences, and VAIN is one of the precursors, which then leads to progression to these cancers. So yesterday was a remarkable day that we had the launch of the HPV vaccine. So these cancers may also, we will probably tend to see them less once the vaccine is rolled out completely. So if we look at the data, the Globocan 2022, there were estimated 18,000 cases, but the mortality happened in those in more than 8,000. So it has, despite the low incidence, the mortality rate is quite high. And the precursor lesion, VAIN, which usually contributes to only around 1% of all the pre-invasive lesions. And the risk factors are essentially as we have for the cervical cancer, HPV infection, early coronary, smoking, immunocompromised status, old age, and of course, the most common types which are detected are HPV 16, 18, and 33. So HPV infection is again one of the most significant risk factors. So when we looked at the median age, it was seen that most of the times these women are elderly, they are 68, and if it occurs in the younger women, these are linked to the HPV infection. So these are the other risk factors in a woman, somebody who had prior cervical neoplasia or radiotherapy, there was a risk factor. Historically, DH exposure, which was mostly used in the 70s, this was clearly linked to clear cell adenocarcinoma. And the symptoms include vaginal bleeding, abnormal discharge. If the disease is progressed, they might also have feeling of pelvic pain and discomfort. And since the proximity to the urethra and bowel is close, there could be urinary and the bladder symptoms. So once after the lady presents with these symptoms, we have examined. Biopsy is definitely required, and that helps in making us the type of the tumor on the histopathology. And along with that, apart from examination, we have to screen her for cervical cancer. Then we have to, depending on the stage, we have to go for CECT or MRI, and this will help us structure the treatment plan. So the most common site is the upper part of the vagina, and the posterior wall is what is more involved. So these are the different types. Almost 90% of the tumors are either squamous cell carcinoma or adenocarcinoma. The other rare types include clear cell sarcoma, melanoma. And we stage them by the FIGO latest staging. The treatment, the early stage 1, we can the surgery is offered in them. We can do radical vaginectomy. If the tumor is towards the vulva, then we have to remove it along with the groin lymph nodes. Most of the time, the tumor is detected in the later stages, and then the standard of care is chemo radiation. Prognosis wise, if it's an early disease, it's a good prognostic tumor. But if the tumor size has been more than 4 centimeters, if the lesion is aggressive histopathology, the prognosis remains poor. So these are the newer therapies which have been targeted, and it is the image guided radiotherapy intensity modulated, which gives more precise radiotherapy, avoiding the healthy tissue. So to conclude, that we must all be aware about this exceptionally rare tumor. There should be a multimodal management modality, and surgery is reserved only for early stage diseases, and there is definitely an HPV infection. So we must promote HPV prevention and screening strategies. Thank you very much.
So basically, it is a review article, and vaginal carcinoma is very rare. Cervical carcinoma gets all the highlights and limelight. And day before yesterday, only Honorable Prime Minister started HPV vaccination, which will take care of vaginal carcinoma also. So probably the jury liked the idea that vaginal carcinoma is relatively neglected, and I think needs to do. And like other esteemed authors can also see that review articles can also win awards. So please do submit your good original and review articles also. So thank you. I congratulate the authors for the award. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Swati, and many, many congratulations, Dr. Deirdre Lyell and Madam Berlia, to present the award to her, please. Dr. Swati Tomar getting the Best Review Article Award. I also request Dr. J.B. Sharma, who is the co-author of this, to receive his certificate. Thank you so much. Well, the award for the Best Original Study goes to Dr. Nandini Jha, Senior Resident, Obstin Gynae at Sri Narayan Medical Institute and Hospital, Saharsa, Bihar. We'd like to invite her on stage to make a brief presentation. Her original study a comparative study between micronized vaginal progesterone with oral progesterone in management of recurrent and threatened abortion. Dr. Nandini Jha.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Honorable Chief Guest, distinguished dignitaries on and off the dais, esteemed faculty member, and my fellow colleagues. It is a profound honor to stand before this assembly to share my research, and which was a comparative study between micronized vaginal progesterone with oral dydrogesterone in management of recurrent and threatened abortion. So, as we all know, recurrent and threatened abortion present significant obstetric challenges affecting both the physical as well as emotional well-being of women. Progesterone, a vital hormone for sustaining pregnancy. So, during early pregnancy, HCG is responsible for the production and secretion of progesterone from the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum is prevented from regression by HCG till the time syncytial trophoblasts start directly secreting progesterone. Any defect in the secretion of HCG or progesterone is associated with a significantly increased risk of first trimester abortion. So the rationale behind this study was paucity of definitive evidence guiding clinician toward the preferred choice between micronized vaginal progesterone and oral dydrogesterone in the context of recurrent and threatened abortion. By evaluating both the efficacy and safety profile of these two agents, present study aims to contribute valuable insights that can enhance the precision and individualization of therapeutic approaches in the management of recurrent and threatened abortion. So this study was a prospective randomized clinical study which was conducted at Rajshri Medical Research Institute, Uttar Pradesh. 150 pregnant women were randomized into oral dydrogesterone and vaginal progesterone groups with bed rest and hydration advised for all. Pregnant women with a gestational age of 24 weeks or below, diagnosed clinically and sonographically with either threatened or recurrent abortion were included. And pregnancy beyond 18 weeks with fetal anomalies, bleeding disorders, uterine or cervical abnormalities, infection, trauma, USG finding indicating abnormal GSAC, yolk sac, or gross fetal anomalies were excluded. Treatment protocol which was followed in case of threatened miscarriage, oral dydrogesterone initially with a loading dose of 40 milligram stat followed by 20 milligram daily until 7 days after cessation of bleeding. In case of MVP, administered vaginally at a dose of 400 milligram per day until bleeding ceased. In case of recurrent miscarriage, oral dydrogesterone at a dose of 10 milligram twice daily until 20 weeks, and micronized vaginal progesterone at a dose of 400 milligram per day until 20 weeks of pregnancy were administered. Participants were followed until 28 weeks to assess pregnancy continuation, bleeding episodes, and pregnancies ending in missed or spontaneous abortion. Data were analyzed using SPSS version 25 with chi-square for qualitative and t-test for quantitative data. P-value less than 0.05 was considered significant. So these are the results. Both groups had comparable baseline characteristics, including age, gestational age, BMI, with no significant difference. But in case of participant receiving vaginal progesterone, there were higher mean progesterone level, as you can see here. It was 24.07 plus minus 4.67 nanogram per ml compared to oral dydrogesterone group. Bleeding duration and type were slightly higher with vaginal progesterone, but differences were not statistically significant. Oral dydrogesterone showed significantly lower miscarriage rate, 8%. In case of micronized vaginal progesterone, it was 20%. And there were higher pregnancy continuation rate with oral dydrogesterone group compared to vaginal progesterone. Among the participants who received oral dydrogesterone, 6 cases experienced miscarriage while 69 continued their pregnancy. In contrast, among those subjects who received vaginal progesterone, 15 had miscarriage and 60 continued their pregnancy. Overall adverse effects were similar between two groups. Mostly mild symptoms like nausea, headache, fatigue, and vaginal irritation were there. So, both groups had comparable age, gestational age, BMI consistent with all previous studies by Grisinger et al. And Nanbach et al. Spotting was more common with micronized vaginal progesterone, but moderate bleeding with oral dydrogesterone were seen, but differences were not so significant, aligning with Kale et al. And Nanbach et al. Adverse effects were similar, and so, to conclude my study, vaginal progesterone had a higher miscarriage rate, while both treatments were similarly well tolerated with mild comparable adverse effect. Both oral dydrogesterone and MVP are effective, but oral dydrogesterone showed lower miscarriage rate while similar safety. And treatment choice should be guided by the miscarriage risk, patient comfort, administration route, and hormonal response. Oral dydrogesterone offers clinical advantages with similar safety, while both treatments remain valid based on patient-specific factors. In future, larger multicenter studies are needed to confirm efficacy, differences, optimize treatment choice, and support evidence-based decisions. Thank you.
I think there is an idea that drug trials, can be more easily done, can be more easily funded. And Nishant will be very happy to fund any research trial or done on a study of Walter Bushnell. And then, they are having higher chances of getting this thing also. Probably the study got the award because though the number of cases were not too high, but they did it very meticulously, followed the patients very meticulously, follow-up was done, serum progesterone levels were done. So that is an idea to the readers that how to plan your studies. I often get complaint that we don't get funding. I mean, the ICMR doesn't give funding, DST doesn't give funding. I said you try, without funding also you can do good research, from your departmental funds, and you can apply to pharma company also. So that's what I tell. So Deirdre has a lot of projects with NIH. I think she can guide better. Thank you.
Thank you and many congratulations, Dr. Nandini Jha. I request Dr. Deirdre Lyell and Madam Barlia to please present the Best Original Study Award to Dr. Nandini Jha. Thank you so much. Thank you and congratulations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to have amongst us Dr. Neha Barlia, granddaughter of Dr. Stya Paul and daughter of Mrs. Sushma Paul Barlia and Mr. Vijay Barlia. Dr. Neha Barlia is co-owner and director, Family Business Board, APJ Satya and Swaran Group, an international conglomerate of businesses with major interests in education, pharmaceutical, and life sciences and real estate. Dr. Neha Barlia is leading the education vertical of the group. She is also an office bearer of APJ Education and oversees 26 educational institutions, that is schools and higher educations, including the APJ Satya University, comprising over 5,000 educators and staff members and over 40,000 students. She is also Pro-Chancellor of APJ Satya University. She is a graduate in economics from Stanford University, USA, and holds a PhD in finance and a master's degree in management and banking from University of St. Gallen in Switzerland. She has graduated from the Owners President Management Program at Harvard Business School. Dr. Neha Barlia is a member of the Management Committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry and is chairing its Skill and Entrepreneurship Development Committee. Well, she has in the past chaired the Task Force on Digital Security and co-chaired the Education Committee of PhD CCI. She's also the former co-chair of ASSOCHAM, National Council on Real Estate and Urban Development. She's been and continues to be associated with numerous other industry chambers. Dr. Neha Barlia has been bestowed with numerous awards. The recent ones include Transformational Leader in Education by ABP News, in June 2025 at the Smart Ed Conclave 2025 by Shri Ashish Sood, Honorable Education Minister of Government of NCT of Delhi, in acknowledgement of her visionary leadership, tireless dedication, and outstanding contributions to the field of education. Educationist of the Year Award at the 32nd World Education Summit 2025 in Dubai, organized by ELETS, Education Entrepreneur 2024, for Excellence in Education by Jagran Josh, Educationist of the Year 2023 by Center for Education Growth and Research at Rashtriya Shiksha Gaurav Puraskar, New Delhi, among many, many others. She is also an Indian national medalist athlete and an award-winning Indian classical musician, as well as a passionate philanthropist. I now request Dr. Neha Barlia to introduce Dr. Deirdre Lyell, our esteemed chief guest of the day.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, including the esteemed members of the medical fraternity who have gathered here from all over the country for this very special occasion. So, IOG awards are not just merely awards, they reflect a shared commitment, a community of minds, a family bound by purpose to advance knowledge, honor research, and safeguard health of women. I was just thinking of my own journey and I feel comfortable sharing. I was just thinking today. So I have 2 children, and in our journey of having children, we ended up, I ended up suffering a very low AMH. I had 0.01. And so when we got married, when I checked my AMH, I was told I should try and do IVF. So I went to do IVF in India, and it was so bad that I couldn't even do an egg retrieval. So my egg quality was that bad. To an extent where now when I think of that journey, I think of the emotion, I think of what I went through, even though it was one IVF cycle. And when I sit here today, I see the good work all of you do here and how important it is. In our case, we were lucky. I ended up conceiving naturally and have 2 children now. And just by God's grace, I think that happened. But this gives me a moment to share, and just now that I've gone through it, I felt comfortable, sharing today. That how, I personally also, how I understand and how I feel that this is such an important conference we do, where we get brilliant minds together and we try to solve problems for women. Because only as a woman, I feel one understands what one goes through. And I still now, going back, remember those days when we didn't know what was going to happen. So I just, wanted to honor all of you and the great work you do. And honestly, like, you are gods to a lot of these women who are coming out there. So today's oration lecture is meant to enrich us on placental dysfunction from pathophysiology to clinical practice. So to shed more light, we are delighted to have Dr. Deirdre Lyell, Endowed Professor of Maternal-Fetal Medicine at Stanford Medicine, where she serves as a chair and principal investigator of the California Maternal Quality Care Collaborative, director of the program in placental disorders, associate director of the Division of Maternal-Fetal Medicine and Obstetrics, and director of perinatal epidemiology and population health within the Maternal-Fetal Medicine Center to deliver the oration on placental dysfunction from pathophysiology to clinical practice. Dr. Lyell brings in more than 25 years of clinical research, leadership, and teaching experience in maternal field medicine. Dr. Lyell's award-winning research has focused on understanding and reducing severe maternal morbidity, placenta accreta prediction, metabolomics, and improved care, anemia prevention, clinical obstetrics, and quality improvement. She has conducted several practice-changing multi-center randomized clinical trials and currently serves as a project lead for National Institutes of Health-funded maternal health centers of excellence on hemorrhage-related severe maternal morbidity. She founded and continues to direct the program of placental disorders, a multidisciplinary patient care and research program for women with placenta accreta. She served for many years as a medical director of labor and delivery and has led quality improvement initiatives locally and at scale with the California Maternal Quality Care Collaborative, 200-member hospitals to ensure that everyone receives the same quality, high quality of care. Dr. Lyell is an avid educator who ran Stanford's nationally recognized maternal-fetal medicine fellowship for 16 years and expanded it. She has been a mentor to students and researchers at all levels, teaches locally and internationally, and has won awards for teaching and as a journal reviewer. Nationally, she was a founding board member of the Pan-American Society for Placenta Creta Spectrum, is a committee member of the Society for Maternal-Fetal Medicine Foundation, an examiner for American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology's Maternal-Fetal Medicine Specialty Board, and a grant reviewer for the National Institutes of Health and many others. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Biology and History from Stanford University and a management degree from George Washington University. She completed a medical residency at Brigham and Women's Hospital at Harvard Medical School and a fellowship in maternal fetal medicine at Stanford Medicine. Now I request Dr. Deirdre Lyell to come to the podium to deliver her oration lecture on the much awaited topic. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Neha, for that wonderful introduction. And it is a true honor to be in this room with all of you, celebrating the Dr. Stya Paul IOG Awards, celebrating his commitment to education, scholarship, and dedication to others as we all work to improve the lives and health of those that we take care for, and his work that is honored and shared through this conference, really through the work that all of you do every day. Thank you, Mrs. Stya Paul Awards, for bringing us all together today, for reminding us, each one of us, what each one of us has inside of us. I really appreciated your words this morning. And really for carrying on your father's legacy and the inspiring work that you do. It's been a true pleasure to get to know you a little bit. And to your wonderful family, those with us today, Mr. Nishant Burlia and Dr. Neha Burlia, as well as Mr. Aditya Burlia, I don't know, up there where you're on Zoom, hello. And the teams at Walter Bushnell for your wonderful, incredible hospitality. There are so many wonderful people that I've met while here, and it's been a true pleasure. And then finally, thank you to Dr. J.B. Sharma and the Indian Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology from the impressive work that has been presented at this conference, both last night and the awards that were presented today. This relatively young journal is flourishing in an incredibly short period of time. And as Nishant pointed out, the research and success in India is really quite incredible. It's impressive, it's growing, and it will be fun to watch in the coming years. Finally, it's been an honor to visit your incredible, beautiful country and soak in the wonderful Indian culture. And with that said, allow me to begin. So, why talk about the placenta? There are lots of things we could be talking about. We've heard about some of them. It's key, really, to nearly all pregnancy outcomes for mom and for baby. It's an incredible organ. I could spend all day talking about it, and I'm truly going to distill a lot of information into a very short window of time. Some of it I'm just going to gloss over then very superficially. Please know that that's just an issue of not having enough time to really give this incredible organ everything that it deserves. But if we think about it, it is transient. It appears anew. For each pregnancy, it serves multiple vital organ functions at once, and then it goes away, disappears. The work that it does is truly incredible as well. It's acting as the lungs, orchestrating oxygen and nutrient delivery, gas exchange. It is the endocrine system, the source of steroid production. It's storage, too. It stores vital substrates that are really critical, nutrients to grow a full-term healthy baby, if we're lucky. It suppresses the maternal immunity, it protects the fetus, and it removes waste. And we heard about some of this last night, too, that immune suppression and some of the problems when something goes wrong with it. And in fact, there are other significant consequences when things go wrong. Implantation that is too poor or too deep, An abnormal structure and function can change the maternal and the neonatal life course. And that's what we'll cover today: placental structure and function, detection of placental dysfunction and when things go wrong, the best clinical management with particular focus on placenta accreta spectrum, because that is a lot of the work that I do as well. So I like to think of the placenta as, now I can say, as a deli turnabout, really with constant and extensive interactions coming in and coming out, and yet it all works. I've been impressed driving through these turnabouts. I don't know how you all do it, who drives here. It's very complicated, and yet it does seem to work. It's very impressive, but that's just like the placenta. Everything is entwined. Their inputs into the placenta, their outputs out of the placenta. It absolutely supports life, and it can kill. So first on this slide, if we look on the left, we know that there are a number of maternal health impacts on placental health and therefore pregnancy outcomes. Certain conditions act through the placenta and cause maternal morbidity and even mortality through preeclampsia, abruption, placenta accreta, and less impactful gestational diabetes. And it can reveal long-term maternal health risks, such as lifetime cardiovascular disease among those with preeclampsia, type 2 diabetes among those with gestational diabetes. And there are other factors that play a role that will impact fetal life, maternal well-being through the placenta as well. Trauma, medications, anemia, nutritional status all impact health via the placenta. And all of it supports neonatal health: morbidity, mortality through prematurity, growth restriction, and stillbirth. And as an example of that, consider all of these conditions that are associated with fetal growth restriction that is mediated through the placenta. We have the opportunity to modify outcomes by seeing patients with many of these conditions before they become pregnant, optimizing these diseases and ensuring that pregnancy begins when the disease is quiescent, as well as opportunity to improve outcomes through our clinical management during pregnancy, giving prophylactic aspirin to those at risk for preeclampsia, or controlling blood pressure among those with chronic hypertension to reduce preeclampsia risks. Again, as Nishant mentioned earlier, our knowledge of the placenta has really grown, of anything, through tremendous advances in research and what we have learned in the last few decades. How to improve care through our understanding of its pathophysiology has also grown in recent decades, along with advances in research, things like biopsy techniques that are critically important in understanding that we are getting it right when we draw conclusions within research. Ultrasound, MRI, electron microscopy. And I expect that we'll be seeing exciting advances in the decades to come. It's really exciting to see the young students here, and hopefully they are inspired by this because they are the ones who are going to be doing this good work. And my slide is not advancing. Okay, this wasn't up before. Thank you. Before diving into clinical practice, let's return to some basics: placental structure and function. So this may be quite basic for some of you, but considering the basic structure so that we can level set, the placenta has a maternal surface, as seen on the right, the red part, and then the fetal surface. These are the membranes, the sort of water sac that surrounds the fetus as it's developing. There's the umbilical cord that has 2 arteries and a vein, and it's protected by a thick substance like an insulation cord that's really critical to protecting those small vessels. So if the cord twists too much, we know that can lead to a stillbirth. Sometimes fetal growth restriction is reflected in poor development here as well. So for cellular structure, there are 2 cell types that are given that progenitor cells give rise to. The syncytial trophoblast, as you heard, creates peptides and hormones, especially progesterone for pregnancy maintenance, as Dr. J pointed out, gas exchange, and a protective barrier function. The cytotrophoblast serves more of as an anchor. The invasion of spiral arteries into the myometrium occurs here and under that direction, and also it directs the transformation of those spiral arteries. And in fact, that transformation process is so important that we'll dive a little bit deeper here. That transformation is critical to spiral arteries being converted from high resistance, narrow arteries to really wide bore, low resistance vessels. This is what supports the ability for massive placental blood flow that's required for fetal development. We know that failure of that remodeling is seen more commonly in certain medical conditions such as hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and autoimmune disease. Again, so important to control these before somebody gets pregnant and during pregnancy. We know that failure of this vascular remodeling is associated with early onset preeclampsia, fetal growth restriction, abruption, preterm premature rupture of membranes, all of these placental complications. To meet the needs of a growing baby in a very short order of time, there's constant growth and a huge increase in placental blood flow from about 45 mLs early to 750 mLs per minute at term. And this creates the tremendous potential for rapid decompensation in a postpartum hemorrhage. And I know that this is work that some of you really do in your professional lives and research. So there's so many things that lead to poor placental function or maternal morbidity and mortality that include that incomplete transformation of the spiral vessels, as I've mentioned, placenta accreta spectrum, hemorrhage, and death due to physical and structural anomalies. In addition to that incomplete transformation and that abnormal anchorage, these structural anomalies include things like chorioangiomas that can lead to fetal anemia and high output heart failure. Sometimes a structural problem with the placenta may be bilobed, and if you don't know, a bilobed placenta can lead to poor perfusion and fetal growth restriction. Sometimes there's a sectionturiate lobe, an extra lobe of placenta, and if we don't know about that and somebody delivers and it's left inside, that can lead to risks such as maternal infection as well as hemorrhage. And then there's the umbilical cord, as I've mentioned. This is actually part of the placenta too. Sometimes it may contain 2 vessels rather than 3. Sometimes it's inadequately protected. And I had mentioned before that hypercoiling of the cord without that protection can lead to stillbirth. And this is real. I delivered somebody about 3 weeks ago where this is exactly what happened. There can be abnormal umbilical cord insertion. Sometimes one of the vessels exits prematurely, called a vasoprevia, a velamentous cord, and if that vessel is near the cervix and ruptures, that's called a vasoprevia, and that can lead to fetal death. So we aim to identify all of these placentally mediated problems, really to optimize clinical outcome through the basics of what we do every day. And I don't think that should be underestimated, how important routine prenatal care is. Checking things like the fundal height, vital signs. We obtain a routine 20-week ultrasound. When it's indicated by detection of any conditions, diseases, or anything found on ultrasounds, we get growth ultrasounds. We can do antepartum fetal surveillance with either non-stress tests, biophysical profiles, or umbilical artery Doppler studies, and make a difference to our patients, to their pregnancies, to their babies. And I mentioned before underlying medical disease, and again, I want to emphasize that the more we can optimize our patients' medical conditions before they get pregnant, the better the pregnancy outcomes. We can help the patients as well to understand the potential impact of disease on pregnancy and pregnancy on disease. and again, optimizing their conditions before conception. And this is particularly important to our patients with rheumatologic disease and diabetes, as well as others. We can make medication adjustments if needed in this time frame as well, and come up with a plan for increased surveillance during the pregnancy. Now, routine ultrasound is something that we typically get 20-week ultrasound to really look at the whole system to make sure that there are no fetal anomalies, there's not growth restriction. This is also the time that we will evaluate the placenta, and I'm showing a picture here of a chorioangioma. We saw this in my practice about 6 months ago. I'll talk a little bit more about that soon just because I think it's interesting, but the evaluation on routine ultrasound may be what identifies that further workup that is necessary. Perhaps you identify mesomelia, perhaps we identify growth restriction, signs of genetic conditions, infections. This is really what can prompt the next stage of a higher level workup and care. When we have concerns for fetal growth restriction, this may arise just through routine prenatal care. It may be suspected if there's decreased fundal height. Typically 3 centimeters behind dates is the minimum recommendation for when one should get an ultrasound. We often use in my practice 2 centimeters. Certainly if somebody has risk factors such as medical conditions, such as prior growth restriction, that's a big one, we will then get serial ultrasounds to estimate the fetal weight, the amniotic fluid volume, and typically we'll do this about every 4 weeks, starting at 26 to 28 weeks. And then when growth restriction is confirmed, that's confirmed if the estimated fetal weight overall is less than the 10th percentile, or now we follow ACOG guidelines, and if the abdominal circumference is also less than the 10th percentile, then that is the diagnosis of growth restriction. We then measure the fetus about every 2 weeks, 2+ weeks, so the recommendation is every 2 to 4 week cadence. Follow with umbilical artery Dopplers as well, and the frequency is really going to depend on the results and the setting. We utilize antepartum assessment in my practice too with non-stress tests, often 1 to 2 times per week in these settings, or one can use a biophysical profile as well. This allows for real-time fetal management and delivery timing if needed, if you see a non-stress test like the one that is shown here. This slide is really a review of ACOG's guidance on when to deliver, and it's really driven by the degree of the growth restriction, considered severe if the estimated weight is less than the 3rd percentile, when to monitor for stillbirth, and that's the whole point that we're trying to protect against. But I won't go through this because it's complicated, but I believe you'll have access to these slides. And I mentioned I would discuss the chorioangioma. This is a benign vascular tumor. It's of placental origin, seen in up to 1% of pregnancies. When they're small, they're benign typically. But when they're larger, there's certainly an increased risk for high output fetal cardiac failure or hydrops with increasing size. For management, and this one you probably can't read it, but it was 6 by 7 centimeters, so quite large. We follow them with serial ultrasounds every 3 to 4 weeks when the tumors are small, and then every 1 to 2 weeks for large tumors. If in utero treatment is needed, because perhaps hydrops is developing, there are options. They're not simple options, but laser ablation, microcoil embolization, and radiofrequency ablation. And I want to remind that pregnancy is really a window into the future, that placental function. We know that the placenta and the diseases that may arise during pregnancy can tell us risk factors for future cardiovascular disease for our patients who have preeclampsia. This is an opportunity then for providing longer-term care, talking to our patients about the fact that their preeclampsia diagnosis is a risk factor, as we might consider smoking or high cholesterol, other conditions as well. And this might prompt better diet, exercise, lifestyle modifications, and also for surveillance by their primary care provider. We find in the United States a lot of providers are not aware of this. So a lot of internal medicine physicians, it's an opportunity to educate others to make sure that longer term, throughout the life course, these patients are getting the care that they need. Gestational diabetes itself, which is prompted and often driven by human placental lactogen, a hormone that comes from the placenta, is also a risk factor for later development of type 2 diabetes. We screen our patients postpartum really to understand, did they have pre-existing type 2 diabetes when we made that diagnosis in pregnancy? And if so, they can begin treatment. We can also counsel regarding that longer-term risk that they may develop type 2 diabetes, a silent disease, counsel on weight loss if that's applicable, lifestyle modification as well, and or simply future testing as well if they screen negative. So I'm going to switch gears quite a bit right now and talk about the deadliest placental disease, placenta accreta spectrum. So what is that? As many of you know, this involves abnormal adherence of the placenta villi to the myometrium. It's often diagnosed via ultrasound in patients with prior scarring. It requires specialized multidisciplinary care and surgical management. Again, that 750 milliliters of blood that's passing through the placenta at full term means that this is a very vascular organ and a vascular condition. The prevalence is increasing, unfortunately, and I think that we'll continue to see that increase. Much less common, particularly in the 60s, about 5% of, when the cesarean rate was about 5% in many places. It's less than 1% today. That is a scary number. Why is it increasing so much? Because the cesarean rate is increasing. And the rate of placenta previa is also increasing. We know that this is driven by things like age, IVF, and some unknowns. Sometimes having even a prior cesarean is a risk factor for development of placenta previa. The median estimated blood loss in accreta is 3 liters. That is a life-threatening amount of blood to lose, as you know. In different studies, 95% approximately of patients will receive blood transfusions at the time of an accreta delivery, and 40% or so will receive more than 10 units, and then approximately 10% will receive more than 20 units. That's a lot of blood to give somebody. That takes a lot of specialty care and understanding of the maternal physiology and some of the complications that can arise just in doing that. This is something you don't want to see at 3 in the morning as a surprise. This is a uterus with I should have asked for the pointer, but there's that big bulgy area on the lower left-hand side. This is a placenta increta, probably percreta. There's an area that I can see a little bit of placenta peeking through. And I think it's important to really note that the vessels that come into this uterus at full term have increased in size. About 20% of maternal blood supply is coming to the uterus. That's in contrast to about 4% in somebody who's not pregnant. So that blood volume increases about 5-fold. Surgically, that makes things very challenging. When you're dealing with very large vessels with a lot of flow coming through them, you need to know what you're doing when you're clamping and you're cutting. If you lose one of those vessels, that may cause someone to lose her life. So what causes this? You know, there's been a debate in the field. Is this overly invasive trophoblast? That's supported by the fact that sometimes accreta is reported in the setting of no known prior scarring. I think it's important to note that sometimes somebody may not have had a prior surgery. This happened to me in one case where I encountered an unexpected accreta in somebody pretty low risk that I was delivering at 37 weeks. And when I asked her afterwards, you know, did you have any surgeries? No. And then it was sort of about, oh yeah, you know, many years ago I had an IUD and it got embedded and I had a couple of procedures to take it out, and we're like, aha, that may be the scarring. More recently, there's the notion that insufficiently protective decidua is probably it. We know that accreta is more common if there's scarring, and therefore then there's failure of normal decidualization. You need this sort of decidual layer. It's almost like Velcro, so the placenta can just separate. And this is supported by the fact that we often see accreta more in the lower uterine segment. Some of that's because that's where people have prior cesarean scars. But even patients with previa alone and no prior scarring have a much higher risk of placenta accreta, and this is one of the thoughts here. This is a situation where at delivery, experience, skill, and resources matter more than anything. We don't often talk about rates of maternal death, and in Accreta, we need to. We know that there's a big range of estimated maternal death, more recently a little bit less than 1% or 0.7, all the way up to 7%. So that's a big range. More recently, there's been the description of something called the Center of Excellence, which would be the optimal center where somebody could have an Accreta. This is a center that offers a multidisciplinary team where there's an experienced maternal-fetal medicine physician or obstetrician, or a pelvic surgeon, somebody who's expert in deep pelvic surgery who can really sort of slickly deal with the major vessels. It's a big surgical problem and a vascular problem. An expert anesthesiologist, somebody who's aware of how do you give all that blood to somebody and maintain all of their vital functions in these cases that can involve tremendous instability from quick blood loss. An expert radiologist or MFM, we need somebody who can really make this diagnosis correctly. Interventional radiology, some people have moved away from that. We don't use it routinely in my practice, but it's an important tool to have available, as well as neonatology, because we often deliver these babies early. It's important to have intensive care unit level services, and most importantly, or I shouldn't say most, they're all important, but blood transfusion services. So having a massive transfusion protocol, cell saver, and transfusion medicine. When it's been studied, hospitals that offer this center of excellence versus standard care, where they don't have all of these necessarily available, showed a 5-fold reduced composite early maternal morbidity, less blood transfusion of greater than 4 units, packed red blood cells, and less reoperation within 7 days for bleeding. That's a situation that in some cases can be very dangerous for a patient. So how well, then, understanding that we would ideally want these patients to deliver in a center that's ready for this, how often or how well do we predict Accreta? Well, in some studies that are done in institutions where they're doing a lot of, they've got a lot of referrals for patients with, Accreta, and they're reporting really, really high results, that there's high sensitivity and specificity. I don't believe that. And I think you can look to prospective cohort studies to really support this. We know that in the Nordic countries, they had a very large prospective database of all obstetric outcomes. And they found that in 71% of the cases, Accreta was diagnosed at delivery. So most cases were not known. There have been several retrospective cohort studies looking in pathology databases. So take all of the hysterectomy samples, the unplanned hysterectomy, the cesarean hysterectomy samples, and look at the pathologic diagnosis. In one, I think at Northwestern, 76% were diagnosed at delivery. So we did the same kind of exercise in our own hospital, and we published this work and looked into our pathology database, and it identified something similar, that in the case of 47% of Accretas were diagnosed and identified at delivery, it was less common for Increta, and we didn't have any cases of Percreta. Those were all known. One that gets commonly missed is the microscopic Accreta, where essentially there's some fibers, myometrial fibers on a placenta that delivered normally. So antenatal diagnosis is critical for delivery location, really for this specialized care and timing of delivery. So how do we optimize then the diagnosis of placenta accreta? Well, the most important factors here are going to be patient history and risk factors. We've looked at a lot of things, biomarker investigations. A lot of people are very familiar with alpha fetal protein, or AFP. We know that elevated AFP is associated with an increased rate of accreta. We did similar work with PAP-A in my own institution, and we found that we know that if PAP-A is very low, that correlates with fetal growth restriction and poor implantation. So then we hypothesized that perhaps high PAP-A is going to be associated with accreta, and it is. The problem here is at what level do you really know that there's going to be accreta? It's a little bit messy. Some people have high AFP, very high PAP-A, and there's no accreta. or quite the opposite. It goes in the opposite direction, so not very discriminatory. I've also done work with metabolomics. The metabolome is going to reflect the final downstream product of gene transcription. We found some interesting findings, and it's an area for further investigation. But again, these are not tests that really are discriminatory that can help us to discern that this patient has it or this patient does not. The most frequent, the most important, the most significant risk factors are going to be whether or not someone's had a prior cesarean and how many, and do they have placenta previa. We know that cesarean alone is not often going to cause an accreta, but once you couple just one prior cesarean with a placenta previa, then that risk really jumps, and that's where this patient deserves targeted ultrasound and even serial targeted ultrasound looking for signs of placenta accreta. Certainly it jumps a lot more with 2 and 3 prior cesareans. There are many other risk factors. They're not as strong, but they can happen. So first of all, the highest would be anything that causes deep myometrial scarring, the most common being a cesarean, but myomectomy, if it's through and through. Endometrial scarring can certainly do it. Again, the driver risk is really not as strong here, but thermal ablation, uterine artery embolization, radiation, and Asherman syndrome. We know that submucous fibroids, multiparity, advanced maternal age, IVF are also risk factors, as well as twin gestation. They're not major risk factors, but they are there. So when we think about imaging for placenta accreta, again, trying to make that diagnosis in advance, ultrasound is the gold standard. We perform serial ultrasounds if they're risk factors for accreta. I've seen I can remember one case so distinctly that she had so many risk factors, and her images at 20 weeks looked fine. They looked fine at 28 weeks. And then by 32 weeks, we saw a pretty extensive diffuse, what turned out to be percreta. We could not see it earlier. We even went back and reviewed the images. This one changed over time. MRI may be useful as an adjunct to ultrasound, certainly when there's a posterior placenta, in somebody who's got clinical risk factors for placenta accreta spectrum, because the MRI can see the posterior portion where the ultrasound, you have the baby in the way. When there's concern for involvement of the bladder, it's a consideration, or other organs, or when you've got very inconclusive or challenging ultrasound with, say, a patient who has got an elevated BMI and it's just very difficult to see. The optimal timing for an MRI is between 28 and 32 weeks. I think it's important to note, though, that ultrasound and MRI, when they've been compared, ultrasound is either slightly or substantially better. It has better sensitivity and specificity than MRI. And again, MRI might help you with that posterior placenta, the large BMI, patient with a large BMI, or inconclusive ultrasound. But I know that there are some centers who have abandoned MRI. The question arose in one study, is MRI helpful if the ultrasound is inconclusive? And in a very well-done study, they found that ultrasound actually usually had the right answer, and that MRI more frequently either incorrectly changed the diagnosis or agreed with the diagnosis correctly. But because it more infrequently led the providers down the wrong path, people have moved away from that, and the cost, some have thought, is not justified. We don't have a good prospective randomized trial on this. Someday, hopefully, we will. When we think about timing of delivery, it is recommended to do a planned early delivery in those with suspected placenta accreta spectrum, as well as placenta previa. That placenta in the lower uterine segment, we know patients who have that will bleed. So in this, we weigh that risk of maternal hemorrhage and morbidities that can lead to, as well as the risk of delivering in a suboptimal location if you don't deliver early enough. With against the neonatal risks, the risk of prematurity is really what the cost is here. But if mom hemorrhages, then baby pays the price there too. And based on this data, in the US, the NICHD has recommended this time frame for delivery, and this is what we follow. So you heard earlier that I founded this Stanford program in placental disorders in 2010. Our goal is really to minimize morbidity, mortality, and do this through standardized care. I think standardization of care is really critically important, particularly in these conditions that require a lot of individuals to get our patients through them safely. But standardization of how we diagnose accreta and how we treat it, as well as care coordination. We also researched the problem of accreta, so we obtained funding early on through an internal mechanism. This allowed us to create data banks and tissue banks so that we can then use those tissues. For example, for a metabolomic work, we have a lot of serum samples, a lot of placental samples, and we're part of the National Accreta Consortium as well, where we all collect data and tissue in relatively similar manner. So we've had some publications with a large number of patients. Our protocol for evaluation of the placenta at Stanford is that we give instructions, first of all, to all patients to arrive with a full bladder. That is really critically important. It sounds minor, it's not. Sometimes you really can't see an accreta because the patient's bladder is empty, and you need this acoustic window, particularly when you've got an anterior accreta. Our sonographers use standardized settings for the Doppler settings on the machines. That's also very important. In doing that, we've had fewer overcalls. You know, when you just turn Doppler ultrasound on, you can make anything light up, and as somebody said, you can Doppler a nosebleed. You can a very slow vascular flow. If your settings are too high, then it can look like a big vascular area, and perhaps it's very lightly vascular, not an accreta. And so getting those settings standard is really important. We also require that our sonographers comment on several things: the lacunae, how many there are they there, and how do they look? We take peak systolic velocity within the lacunae. We look at the retroplacental clear space. Is it normal or absent? The uterine serosa bladder wall interface. Is it thickened? Is it irregular? Is it vascular? We look for irregular placental vessels that are crossing tissue planes and need to comment either that they're present or absent. The placental location, and then finally, the person doing the ultrasound needs to weigh in on their impression. I don't know if you all get these reports, but I've had reports that come back and say, well, yeah, maybe there could be an accreta. And like, that's not helpful when you're going to the operating room. We want to know, is there a high suspicion for accreta, a low suspicion, or that there are no sonographic signs of an accreta? And it's always best to either do the ultrasound or speak to the person who's doing the ultrasound. I want to shift and talk a little bit about our preparation at delivery. This is an area that really we should not be lone providers for. It takes a village, and the list on the right includes everybody that participates in these deliveries. Maybe not every time. For example, urology often doesn't come in as much, or vascular surgery. They've come in before. Trauma surgery has come in before. During pregnancy, we always obtain consultations with maternal-fetal medicine, obstetric anesthesia, gynecologic oncology, neonatology for the planned prematurity, and social services. And some of that is for relocation. Our hospital actually helps to support patients who can't pay to relocate from far areas and stay near Stanford until they deliver, because if they go into labor or bleed in their local communities, they don't have providers who can handle this condition, and that could be associated with death. We assess for and correct anemia, admit patients to the hospital by 34 weeks, because with the previa, that's when the bleeding risk starts to increase. And our delivery timing is 34 to 35 weeks and 6 days, or urgently if there's hemorrhage or labor. We also send an email announcement out, so everyone in the hospital knows. There's about 80 different providers on this list, and all teams are aware when a patient with an accreta is delivering. Intraoperative management before delivery includes, in the operating room, ultrasound mapping to identify where is the placenta, so we know how high we need to cut, cystoscopy and ureteral stent placements, neuraxial anesthesia. We typically have the patients awake during the delivery of the baby so that they can meet the baby, with then conversion to general after delivery. We make a vertical midline incision on everybody. This, when you're deep into that pelvis, you need the exposure, but very often, such as the image in the lower right-hand side, you need to get above the placenta, and sometimes we're cutting a fundal hysterotomy, or I've even sort of delivered the whole uterus out and made a fundal posterior hysterotomy to deliver the baby, depending on placental location. You can await placental separation, but it's important, as you know, to avoid manual separation. You don't want to go and try to peel it off. That will lead to massive hemorrhage, and that will lead to a patient that can quickly become unstable. And then after closure in our practice, and this may differ, we step away and the gynecologic oncologist will lead the hysterectomy. There's a lot of preparation for the hemorrhage that we can expect. So in the room, we have 2 massive transfusion protocol cross-match equivalents. We have a lot of IV access, including an arterial line, a central line, and additional access is needed. This allows us to give blood to a patient who's hemorrhaging very quickly. For that purpose, we also use something called a Belmont infuser. You may have that too, but this is one way to get blood again into a patient very quickly. For location, if we are concerned that there is a percreta, we will perform the surgery in a place where we have access to transesophageal echocardiogram as well. In my institution, that means a cardiac anesthesiologist. So we go to a different operating space if we are not in an emergent situation. It's important to remember that if you're transfusing blood, it's important that you continuously look at the electrolytes and replete them. We know that calcium in particular is important to replete if a patient is receiving large amounts of transfusion, because the citrate can make somebody hypocalcemic, and you can have a hypocalcemic arrest if you're not looking for this. We also redose antibiotics every 1,500 cc's of estimated blood loss, or every 3 hours of surgery. What do you do if the bleeding doesn't stop? Well, people have reported, and we've done pressure packing with laparotomy sponges. You can clamp. Interventional radiology can still be called in at this point. Infrarenal aortic compression can be helpful. Sometimes you just need to slow the bleeding enough to let the anesthesiologist catch up. Perhaps the patient's in DIC, perhaps she's unstable, and you need a little bit more time to temporize. Balloon occlusion is a possibility too, or clamping of the aorta in extreme cases. You have to be very careful because there's a risk of distal thrombosis and ischemia, or sometimes the balloon being placed too high. Calling for help. One of the most important lessons I had was when a trauma surgeon showed up to the room, and we were in a bad place, and the patient had coded from the amount of blood loss. And he showed us a new technique, which I'll show you. And so I said, call this know when to walk away. This is interval stage surgery. This is a patient with a lot of clamps. Her uterus was out. It had been out for a long time. And because of this lateral vascular problem that accreta presents, she had consistent, persistent, life-threatening hemorrhage that continued from her pelvis. There was nothing really that one could sew. You can't suture through just this giant kind of venous plexus stuff that's bleeding. So you can pack that. In this case, we clamped a lot of things and then left her open, closed over what looked like a just giant plastic wrap to keep everything stable, sent her to the intensive care unit for very close monitoring overnight, and then returned the next morning to a nearly bloodless case. Her body needed just time to catch up, and that was truly a life-saving maneuver that was brought to us through a trauma surgeon, an experience that they have in trauma surgery. Postoperatively, these patients frequently receive ICU admission. They need observation very closely to correct that coagulopathy or anemia. It's important to watch for ongoing bleeding or any kind of injury that comes with massive transfusion, renal tract injury, organ dysfunction, Sheehan syndrome, pulmonary edema. You guys have probably heard of that, transfusion-associated lung injury, particularly with these massive transfusions. They're at risk for pulmonary embolism as well as infection, and have a low threshold for re-exploration if there are any concerns. They often will need lactation support. They can lactate and breastfeed, and we've had lactation come in and start the pumping process even for a patient in the intensive care unit who's intubated. We know it's very important to continue to address psychological distress, that tender loving care. We know that when these women are, sitting during pregnancy, knowing that they have this life-threatening mountain ahead that they need to get through, that may leave their children motherless, it's very much, it leaves a pretty deep psychological scar that doesn't go away. And I've heard one patient describe it as, after delivery, it's not over for us. And many people carry that distress throughout their lifetime, and it's really important to address it. A wonderful organization that does this is the National Accreta Foundation. If you Google that, you will find a lot of patient-driven educational materials that are well curated. And I refer a lot of my patients there because there's a lot of patient stories. Again, it's all curated, and it's much safer than kind of the wild west of the internet when patients Google Accreta and they find all sorts of very scary stories. I would be remiss if I didn't comment on prevention. Avoiding the first cesarean is the most important thing we do. Caveat is when possible. There's a really truly important time and a place for cesarean. If it's overused, we will see more accretas. So some parting thoughts on placenta accreta spectrum before I conclude. Just would like you to remember that patients with significant risk factors should undergo serial sonography, looking for signs of an accreta. They should have a full bladder. Well, if you're assessing for accreta with Previa, we actually will bring people back if their bladder is empty and try the scan again. They should deliver in well-resourced environments with an experienced multidisciplinary team that has the right expertise and, again, the right resources, particularly blood. You want to optimize hemoglobin during pregnancy, have a backup plan in any smaller institution that encounters surprise accretas, and research the problem. Overall conclusions, I'd like to just remind that key principles are that a healthy placenta is really important to healthy outcomes. We know that the importance of controlling medical disease before and during pregnancy, serial fetal screening for those at risk, and deliver in the best setting for the patient and the newborn. Finally, pregnancy outcome provides a window into that future, so remember health surveillance for those who have preeclampsia and gestational diabetes, and we can improve lives and health and well-being this way. So thank you so much for listening, for your engagement, and thank you.
I think it was an excellent lecture, and she needs a standing ovation. Thank you. Thank you.
A standing
Very
ovation for
practical.
Dr. Deirdre Lyell. Thank you so much for your stimulating and inspiring oration address. It was indeed a very enriching experience for all of us gathered here. Thank you. I now request Madam Stya Paul Awards to felicitate Dr. Lyell. We have a shawl, a memento, and a book, Reflections in Time, a compilation of Dr. Stya Paul's most cherished quotes, and we are presenting it to her. So please stay back, everyone. We'll be having award presentation ceremony soon after. So please don't leave. We still have award presentation ceremony. A big round of applause for Dr. Lyell. Thank you so much. Well, the overall goal of IOG Awards Committee has always been to generate knowledge and evidence-based practices in the fields of obs and gynae. Thus, the objective is to encourage collaborative research that expands knowledge and impacts practice. In 2017, special awards were instituted to reflect the heterogeneity with cross-divisional and institutional representation For these new awards, an independent esteemed jury was constituted for selecting the awardees. The significant accomplishments in the obs and gynae field have been extensive. We are sure that these awards will inspire the younger generation of doctors to strive for excellence in their work. Dr. Neha Barlia and Mr. Nishant Barlia are joining us on stage for this award presentation ceremony. So let's begin with the first award, the Emerging Star in Obs and Gynae. This award is presented to a rising talent in the field who has displayed exceptional promise, outstanding contribution, and notable achievements, demonstrating the potential to become future luminary in the field. And the award goes to Dr. Shovande Kalpahar. He's a consultant at the Institute of Reproductive Medicine, Kolkata, received the ISAR Youth Icon Award in ISAR Annual Conference in 2024, has many publications to his credit, and is the co-author of many chapters in renowned books of reproductive medicine. He is an executive committee member of Indian Fertility Society for last 2 years. Next is the Excellence in Infertility Treatment. And recipient of this award has exhibited commitment to pushing the boundaries of infertility treatment, enhancing outcomes, and improving the overall reproductive health. Please put your hands together for Dr. Kaberi Banerjee. She is the Medical Director, Advanced Fertility and Gynecology Center, New Delhi, recipient of many prestigious awards. She has more than 50 articles published in national and international journals of repute and numerous original research work published in the field of ART. Let's hear it for Dr. Kaberi Banerjee, ladies and gentlemen. And next is Excellence in High-Risk Pregnancy Management, and it goes to Dr. Mahesh Gupta for his outstanding work and contribution in the management of high-risk pregnancy. He is one of the leading gynecologists of the country and is the director of Indus High-Risk Pregnancy Hospital, Ahmedabad. He is a recipient of Foxy Star and Foxy Legend Award and has developed, patented, and published techniques to control PPH, which has been endorsed by RCOG. He also has the American patent of suture material used for PPH. A big round of applause for Dr. Mahesh Gupta. The next prestigious award is the Excellence in Minimally Invasive Gynecology. It's being awarded for outstanding work, research, and contribution in the field of minimal invasive surgery. Please put your hands together for Dr. Shailesh Pantambikar. He's a laparoscopic cancer surgeon and robotic cancer surgeon and serves as the medical director, Galaxy Care Multispeciality Hospital, Pune. He has patented the technique of radical hysterectomy called the Pune technique of laparoscopic radical hysterectomy. He conducted India's first successful laparoscopic assisted uterine transplant and a recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award at RAGE 2025. The next award is Excellence in Menopause Research and Services Award, and this is being given to Dr. Deirdre J for her outstanding work and contribution in the field of menopause. She is presently working as senior consultant in Sharda Hospital. She's an editor of 19 books and has more than 120 publications to her credit. Recipient of State Award 2012, Woman of the Year 2021, and Fellow of Academy of Medical Sciences. She has also been past president of Association of Obs and Gynae, New Delhi. Let's hear it for Dr. Deirdre J. The next award being announced today is Excellence in Urogynecology, and it's being awarded to Dr. Aparna Hegre. quick one. Yeah.
Okay, very quick. Menopause is very close to my heart. I am 74 years old and I have taken HRT for 10 years. So I want to recite a poem. खुदा ने बख्शा है हमें नूरे मोहब्बत और हुस्न का नगीना ऐ मेरे गायनाकोलॉजिस्ट इंशा अल्लाह ना इसे बर्बाद करना HRT से मेरा सफ़र इतना उम्दा हो जाए कि कफन उठा के मेरा शौहर मुझे चूमे और गले लगाए
Thank you so much and congratulations. The next is Excellence in Urogynecology Award, and it's being given to Dr. Aparna Hegre for her outstanding work and contribution in this field. She is a consultant urogynecologist, Global Hospital Mumbai, Surya Hospital Mumbai, and Women's Hospital Mumbai, and Mitro Hospital Kharghar. Her name is included in the list of 100 most influential people in health globally for 2025 by Time magazine, was ranked 15 in Fortune magazine's 50 World's Greatest Leaders 2021, won the Kenneth Frazier Maternal Health Equity Award, and also received Women Transforming India Award from Niti Aayog in 2022. Thank you, Dr. Aparna Hegre. Next is Excellence in Gynecologic Oncology Award, and this is being given to Dr. Bhagyalakshmi Nayak. Professor, Department of Gynecologic Oncology, Acharya Harihar Postgraduate Institute of Cancer, Cuttack. She's President, Asia Oceania, research organization on genital infections and neoplasia, India. She was the former chairperson, Oncology Committee, FOXC, and has more than 500 publications, editor of 3 books. Let's hear it for her.
We have done a lot of good work on gyne-oncology. We are proud of her, and that also in Odisha. So thank you, madam.
Next is Distinguished Chair Award. And this award recognizes an exceptional professional who has made a significant impact on patient care, demonstrated outstanding clinical leadership at national and international levels, advanced patient-centered education, and contributed meaningfully to mentoring and developing fellow clinicians. And this award is being given to Dr. Ashok Kumar. Please come on stage. He's the Director, Professor, Department of Obs and Gynae, Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Medical Sciences, and Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, New Delhi. He is the chairperson-elect, ICOG 2025, and the organizing chairperson of the recently concluded AICOG 2026 in New Delhi. A big hand for Dr. Ashok Kumar.
This is the highest award, Ashok. You deserve great, I mean, loyal for that. And he concluded the recently concluded AICOG. He organized so beautifully. He was chairperson of that. He's chair of IICOG and has contributed to our journal also. We are proud of you, Dr. Thank you.
And we now come to the Lifetime Achievement Award. This prestigious award honors an eminent professional who has developed over 3 decades to advancing obs and gynae, demonstrated distinguished leadership at national and international levels, contributed to public policy and academic forums, achieved excellence in clinical research and publications, and mentored generations of students and clinicians. And this one is being given to Dr. Cynthia Alexander. She gets it for her outstanding contribution to the field of obs and gynae. She's senior obstetrician and gynecologist with over 35 years of service in Tamil Nadu Medical Services. She was a former HOD Madras Medical College and Stanley Medical College, former director, Institute of Obs and Gynae, Chennai, and the recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award from many organizations like the Times of India and Economic Times Award. A big round of applause for Dr. Cynthia Alexander. Now I request Madam Sushma Paul Barlia and Dr. Deirdre Lyell to felicitate Dr. J.B. Sharma for his excellent editorial services towards IOG Journal. Dr. J.B. Sharma. May I request all the awardees to be present here on the stage for a group photograph in case they've gone back. Many congratulations to all the awardees. May I request Mr. Nishan Barlia to propose vote of thanks now?
I know I'm between lunch, so I'll keep it very short. Actually, my brother Aditya was to give the vote of thanks, but he's been caught in Dubai with recent events. So on his behalf, I would propose a vote of thanks. Honorable Chief Guest of the Day, Dr. Deirdre J, respected Chairman, Mr. Stya Paul Awards, Chief Editor, Dr. J.B. Sharma, highly respected members of the IOG Journal Editorial Board, most distinguished doctors, ladies and gentlemen, I, on behalf of the Savran APJ Satya Group, the IOG Journal and Waterbush Healthcare Foundation, would like to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks to all of you for gracing today's event with your presence and make it a grand success. I would especially like to express a sincere gratitude and deep sense of appreciation to our chief guest, Dr. Deirdre J, for gracing this ceremony and delivering a truly outstanding oration address. And ma'am, thank you. From a etymological perspective, I wasn't aware of the prevalence of PAS post-cesarean. That was fascinating for me. And as a generalist, I truly enjoyed watching your approach of tissue banking and the multi-omics area. And hopefully you find a biomarker which gives us a drug target one day. So that's the other thought protocol as well. I would also like to express a sincere gratitude to Mrs. Stya Paul Awards for her constant support, guidance, and encouragement in all our endeavors. I would like to also thank and acknowledge the extraordinary and tireless efforts of Dr. J.B. Sharma and members of the most eminent IOG editorial board and IOG journal team for making the journal one of India's most widely circulated medical journals. It's actually a circulation of almost 25,000 copies, which is one of the largest actually in India of any medical journal, what you call per se. And I would also like to especially congratulate all the awardees for the extraordinary work they're doing for our country and for the field of medicine. Further, I would like to extend a most grateful, sincere vote of thanks to all the esteemed doctors, dignitaries, and guests who joined us from all across the country and abroad to make this event most memorable with the august presence. And I would also like to thank many of the well-wishers across India and the globe for the live webcast of today's event. And last but not least, a big thank you to many of the members of the APJ Satya family and the Saran group, from our youngest colleagues who joined us, and I sometimes seem very young, to some of our most senior, most advisors and faculty. Thank you for being here and for making us support. And also thank you very much to the Meridian team for the wonderful support they've always given us. So thank you very much.
May I request you all to kindly rise for the national anthem.
जय हे
Thank you all once again. Please join us for lunch. Thank you.